No, that's fine.
So I will make a short introduction.
Sveiki, ačiū, kad susirinkote. Šiandien apsaugos viceministras Abukevičiaus ir viceministro susitiko su JAV sausumos pajėgų sekretorė Wormuth. Buvo aptarti JAV karinio buvimo Lietuvoje ir regiono saugumo klausimai. Dabar pradedame spaudos konferenciją, kuri vyks anglų kalba. Anglų kalba vyks tiek pasisakymai, tiek trumpa klausimų atsakymų sesija. Viceministras Abukevičiaus, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks, and thanks everyone for coming. And it's really a pleasure to welcome and host Secretary of the Army in Lithuania. Now you can experience what Lithuanian summer is, in this hot room. But I think it's really important to stress that this is a very timely visit, just after the NATO summit, where important decisions have been taken on strengthening long-term NATO military posture in the eastern flank. And I think among many important decisions which have been taken in NATO summit, one of them, and a very clear announcement from US, is that we are going to strengthen the military posture, that we are adding additional brigade to the eastern flank, and that will have a very direct effect to the Baltic security as well, because they will be able to rotate some of those forces in Lithuania, and that is a very important message, public message for us. We are really happy to host a 5th US battalion in a row in a heel-to-toe manner, and the new message which is coming from the US leadership clearly ensures, and we are feeling confident that this will continue in the future. So, starting from the existing battalion, it is also important to stress that US were one of the first to reinforce also their contingent after the war and after the invasion to Ukraine. And that is a very important message and commitment we feel. And we very often say that effective deterrence in our region is based and stands on two legs and two pillars. One is NATO, and we had a very clear decisions in NATO on increasing battalion size presence in our region to brigade size, but in addition we have a very firm commitment from US to also continue with their military presence in Lithuania, and that is a second very important deterrent pillar when it comes to Lithuanian and regional security. And what is important, of course, from our side, to make everything to be able to host those additional forces and to be able to host US forces in Lithuania, and we will do everything to improve the conditions for that. So I will very quickly summarize that in Lithuanian, and then Secretary, floor is yours. Tai tikrai džiaugiuosi šiandien galėdamas pasveikinti sekretorę Lietuvoje. Vizitas yra labai savalaikis, iš karto po NATO viršūnių susitikimo, kur buvo priimti svarbus sprendimai dėl NATO rytinio flango stiprinimo, NATO sprendimai dėl pajėgų didinimo, bataliono dydžio pajėgų didinimo iki brigadų, bet mes visada akcentavom, kad efektyvus atgrasimas šiame regione ir Lietuvoje remiasi dviem ramsčiais. Vienas yra NATO, kitas yra JAV buvimas. Tai labai svarbu, kad tiek Madride mes išgirdome įsipareigojimą didinti JAV pajėgas rytų flange. Tai turės tiesioginę įtaką ir Lietuvai. Mes galime būti tikri, kad JAV pajėgų rotacijos Lietuvoje tęsis. Mes jau dabar turime 5 batalioną iš eilės, be jokių pertraukų, dislokuotą Lietuvoje. Tai šitie nauji politiniai įsipareigojimai ir žinutės leidžia mums būti tikriems, kad JAV pajėgų buvimas Lietuvoje tęsis. Ir tai yra labai svarbu, kalbant apie atgrasymą. Iš mūsų pusės mes padarysim viską, kad tas pajėgos Lietuvoje jaustųsi gerai, kad priimančios šalies parama gerėtų ir tiek infrastruktūra susijusi su apgyvendinimu, tiek infrastruktūra su mokymas. Ačiū.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's such a pleasure to be back in Vilnius. I was here in 2017, and I'm very pleased to be back. The Lithuanians are such a strong ally and such an important part of NATO. You know, we've had a very strong bilateral relationship for many years, and along with the Vice Minister, I too welcome the very strong statements of NATO unity coming out of the summit in Madrid. And very much also welcome the statements of additional commitment to strengthen presence along the eastern flank. You know, I think the additional forward headquarters in Poland, you know, will allow us to be able to command and control our forces in a more agile way. And of course, you know, I think it's very significant that there will be a heel-to-toe rotational deployment along the eastern flank, and we look forward to developing the specifics of how that exactly will look in the coming months. But certainly it is clear that there will be continued U.S. presence here in Lithuania. And we very much welcome the investments that Lithuania has made in infrastructure to support U.S. troops here. I had the opportunity to go to Pabrada in 2017. I have not been there since we started bringing in armored battalions on a regular basis in 2019, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that looks today, and very much, you know, appreciate all of the investments that Lithuania has made to support the ability of U.S. and NATO troops to be here. You know, that allows us to not only work together and build interoperability, but also to be able to maintain the readiness of our forces while they're here in Lithuania, and that's very, very important. I also want to commend, you know, Lithuania for the very substantial 2.5% of GDP that you all are investing in defense. That's incredibly important. I think obviously the Russian invasion of Ukraine underscores the wisdom of those investments, and I understand that you all are looking to even potentially increase your investment in defense over time, and you know, certainly we would appreciate that. So again, thank you so much for welcoming me. This is a great visit, and I look forward to the rest of the day and look forward to questions.
Thank you, dear Secretary. Now, media, if you want to... Question, please.
Delfi. Madam Secretary, you mentioned both of you actually stressed the word continuous U.S. presence here. Yesterday, the White House published more details of enhanced rotational deployments in the Baltic region, including armored aviation, their defense special forces. Could you give more numbers, the shape of the forces that we are talking that you're planning to increase here? Are there any limits? Are there any capabilities that would possibly arrive at any requirements for those capabilities that are necessary here, and as well for the infrastructure in Lithuania that you're looking for?
Well, I think in terms of exactly what that heel-to-toe rotational presence is going to look like, you know, that is something that we will need to work on in the coming days, as I said. You know, we have our new soon to be Supreme Allied Commander Europe, General Chris Cavoli, is a fantastic four-star Army general, and I think in particular he will give a strong focus to the land component, as well as our new U.S. Army Europe Commander Daryl Williams. So we'll be working with Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, as well as Poland, to see exactly how what the details of that will look like. And in terms of the investments, I think, you know, we have here today General John Meyer, who's with us, one of our division commanders, and his team will be able, I think, to also work with officials here in Lithuania to do site assessments to determine more fully exactly what kind of infrastructure needs might be most beneficial.
So that's my next question, if I may.
I think, again, you're going to see, I think, many of the similar types of units that you've been seeing. Obviously, those units change over time. We rotate people in. We've had people from Fort Riley, we've had people from Fort Carson, but I think the types of units that you'll see will probably continue to be similar. That said, I think as the situation evolves over time, we're always looking at conditions on the ground and making adjustments if we need to.
More questions?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, when you say looking at the ground, on the ground, you're looking specifically in Lithuania or broader Baltic region, like Baltic states?
I think, in terms of the rotational presence, you'll probably see that continue to be across all 3 Baltic countries, and as well as looking at Poland. So, we're going to want to, I think, look at sort of the whole eastern flank.
Maybe just to add from my side, I think the messages we are hearing and from U.S. side really reassures us that what we have already on the ground for 5th rotation in a row, that will continue in Lithuania. And that is a very important message. We have always been striving for a more predictability, a longer-term plan, and of course we will have to work out the details and the numbers, but there is a commitment that those heel-to-toe rotations in Lithuania will continue. But I think the message which were sent from the highest political levels from U.S. clearly shows that there are good messages also for the whole region. It's not only about Lithuania. U.S. is going to reinforce presence in a Baltic region, and that is a good news for us as well.
I would completely agree with that. And again, as I said, I mentioned the forward element of 5th Corps in Poznan, Poland. But then, we're also going to be looking at a brigade headquarters in Romania, as well as enhancements to, some of our naval and air forces, throughout Europe. So, the eastern flank is incredibly important. You all are obviously frontline states in a very, very important way, and we're going to want to make sure we continue to have a strong presence here.
Just to follow up on the enhanced rotational deployments, more than 4 months ago I asked the Secretary of Defense who was here just before the war, and the question was about the enduring and permanent presence. As you may know, Lithuanians are very itchy about this question, the word permanent. Are there any details on that permanent factor or enduring factor when you consider enhancing rotational presence here?
Well, I think, the whole concept behind heel to toe is that it is essentially here consistently over time. So, there is often a debate about rotational versus permanent presence. I think that, one can deter very effectively with rotational presence, particularly when it is heel to toe.
So there are no plans to the troops on a permanent basis for now?
For now, as the announcement was made at NATO, at the Madrid summit, it was rotational heel-to-toe presence. And that gives us a certain amount of flexibility as well and agility. But I don't think anyone should doubt the commitment of NATO as an alliance to the security of Lithuania, or doubt the commitment of the United States to the security of Lithuania.
Thank you, dear Secretary. Thank you, dear Vice Minister. Press conference is over.